Tonight, we are going to define what is agroforestry systems, the sustainable livestock grazing, silvopasture systems, and we are going to speak how silvopasture systems benefits to be resilient to climate change, animal welfare, and also we are going to explain a little bit about different plant varieties, bushes, trees that are commonly used in the tropic for silvopasture systems. First, we have to know that the livestock industry in Latin America is the largest exporter of beef, which represent around 45% of the region's agricultural GDP. However, this growth requires a sustainable approach to avoid increasing pressure on the region's natural resources and the environment. So it's important to protect the natural resources, because if we only raise animals just based by grazing or supplementing with concentrate, we can damage the natural resources and the system will not be resilient. The livestock farming is estimated to be the main source of income for around 200 million smallholder families in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and the only source of livelihood for at least 20 million families in the world. So livestock industry is really important, and every year more people is consuming meat. So we have to find a way of produce meat, milk, and different resources from livestock in a resilient way. First, we are going to define what is an agroforestry system. Agroforestry system is a series of systems and technologies in which trees are combined with agricultural crops and or pastures, depending on time and space, to increase and optimize production in a sustained manner. So these are systems in which we integrate trees or wood, fruit trees, grasses, and also we can combine some crops in the system. So in the same area, we can grow different crops and different plants, and that helps to increase the biodiversity. The purpose of agroforestry system is to increase production, good land use and ecosystem services, because when we work with different species in the same place, we are going to increase biodiversity, and then we are going to have more pollinators and different types of biocontrols. We also look to satisfy the needs of the family producers, adapt to climate change, that is really important, and increase system resilience. The benefits of agroforestry systems. When we work agroforestry systems, we improve soil fertility because trees and the different crops grow in the same space, release leaves, roots, and we are going to help to increase the organic matter in the soil. Protects crops and livestock from the wind, restore degraded soils, improve water conservation, because when we have the soil covered with trees and different plants, we are going to limit the runoff of the water runoff, and there will be more infiltration of that water in the soil, and it will help to recover the aquifers. Improve water conservation and limit the development of pests and prevent soil erosion. Conservation of biodiversity and adaptation to climate change and its mitigation. But first, we have to talk a little bit about what is industrial livestock operations. In some countries, livestock production systems are mostly based on feedlots and pasture monocultures. These poorly managed grazing systems can degrade the soils throughout overgrazing and erosion. They tend to have low productivity and low income levels, and the animal welfare and product quality are commonly affected. So we have to find, we already have a way to work the livestock industry in a better sustainable way. And the answer to that is to work with sustainable livestock operations. Sustainable livestock operations seeks to integrate soil conservation practices and livestock management practices to increase the productivity and profitability of the operation, always considering reducing the negative effect on the environment, adapting to climate change to obtain more resilient livestock production systems. When working with sustainable livestock operations, we will have some benefits. And the benefits are related to increased food availability through the year, increase the carrying capacity and the production of milk and meat, so we can raise more animals or more livestock in the same area. We can reduce the production cost. We increase resilience to climate change and drought, restore soils, increase market opportunities, and that is related to when we are selling meat or milk, we can say that that milk or meat was produced in grazing systems, for example, without the use of concentrate or other chemicals. And that will help to increase the family income. So what is the alternative? The alternative is a agroforestry system that is named Silvopastoral system. And silvopastoral systems, they are a type of agroforestry system. It's a production system and a set of agricultural practices that include the integration of trees, shrubs, or bushes and other woody plants together with forage species, like grasses and legumes, for feeding farm animals, like cattle, horses, goats, sheep, pigs, among others, under the same integral system. So this silvopastoral system is a set of agricultural practices in which trees, forage, grasses, legumes are combined with mainly ruminant animals, and these systems can be for grazing or to cut and carry forage. So there's two variations. In one of the systems, you can just graze the animals, or you can use the space to cut the grasses, produce hay or silage, and then give that to the animals. There are some variants or different types of silvopastoral systems that we are going to discuss today. So we can have paddocks where we have scattered trees, or we can have windbreakers. Also, we can have intensive silvopastoral or alleys of trees and grasses. Another silvopastoral system is the living fences, forest or fruit plantations, and protein banks. So all these 6 different types of variations of silvopastoral systems we are going to discuss tonight. So first, the first silvopastoral system that is commonly used, and in the case here in Puerto Rico, we almost have this system in every farm. And some farmers do not recognize that they already have a silvopastoral system, because scattered trees can be considered silvopastoral systems. So when we have scattered trees, it consists of planting trees or bushes scattered throughout the paddock to provide shade and other benefits. When we are planting these trees in the field for shade or other benefits, we have to protect the trees for at least 3 years so the animals don't eat the trees. We can use some leguminous species or intermediate shade species that provide forage or edible seeds for the animals. And later in the presentation, I'm going to show you different plant or tree species that can be used for silvopastoral systems. Another silvopastoral system is the windbreaker or windbreak. Windbreaks are lines of vegetation generally composed of trees or bushes that form a high and dense barrier that constitute an obstacle for the passage of wind and dust and redirects and modifies the force of the wind. These systems are mainly used in places where we have, in places where you have different climates. Let's say places where are really cold and they have a lot of wind. So they are commonly used to protect the animal from that cold and wind. For this type of system, we have to use trees that has vigorous root system. And it takes 1 to 3 rows of trees at a distance of 3 meters between trees to establish the windbreaker. And it will take between 3 years to 5 years to establish this system. So when we are working with silvopastoral system, it's important to recognize that it will take time to establish the system. It can take you between 3 to 10 years to establish the silvopastoral system in your farm, because we have to wait for the trees to grow and to establish. Another common, and very common, silvopastoral system is the intensive silvopastoral or alleys. This system consists of rows of trees and bushes that provide shade, protection from rain and wind, and additional source of food for the livestock. We also need in this system vigorous root system, rapid growth trees. And we have to plant 1 row or multiple rows of trees at a distance of 2 to 3 meters between trees. The distance between alleys is usually between 20 to 40 meters, depending on the tree species and use. You can see in the pictures down in the screen some examples of this type of silvopastoral system. So you can establish just 1 row of tree or multiple rows, but it's important to have spaces between the 3 rows so grasses can grow and the animals can graze in this space. The system also takes a lot of time to establish, between 3 to 5 years. And normally is used when we are producing or we are growing trees for wood, for lumber, or fruit trees. There is another system that is named live fences or silvopastoral system for live fences. So trees and bushes are established in the limit of the paddock. Sometimes it is used as a support for the barbed wire or the electric fence, and they provide shade and additional forage to the livestock. They also function as a windbreaker. In this system, it's really, really important to have to use trees that has vigorous root system and rapid growth. For example, in Puerto Rico, there is one limitation when we use this type of system here, because we have a lot of hurricanes or tropical storms. So if you don't use a tree that has a vigorous root system, during storms, they can fall and break the fences. So normally we plant 1 row of trees at a distance of 2 meters between trees. And then when the trees are already developed, you can establish the barbed wire between the trees and you will have a live fence. Another common silvopastoral system is the fruit trees and forestry system. Fruits or timber trees are established in strips. In this case, in the case of fruit trees, intensive management and constant monitoring are required to avoid damage to the fruit trees. In general, the period of occupation in this type of system are shorter and in fruit trees. The systems are used for grazing once the trees are established and in production. They are planted in rows, usually at a distance of 3 to 4 meters between rows in fruit trees. In the case of forest planting for wood, high densities are planted, and then the trees with the best structure for wood use are selected. And the distance between rows is about 4 to 10 meters. So when planting trees for lumber or for wood, normally people seed a lot of trees in a short distance, every 1 meter, every 2 meters, and then you select which tree has better structure for wood, and the other ones you cut it to give space for the grass to grow. And one of the most important that is commonly used is the silvopastoral system related to protein bank. In general, forage shrubs are used, being the most common mulberry, leucaena, mata-raton, and titonia. Later in the presentation, I will show you the scientific name of the trees. So if you don't recognize the common name, you can use the scientific name to search for the species later in the web. For this type of system, we use fast-growing and vigorous root species that has high digestibility, palatability, and protein. Different arrangements can be used and different plant distance. But normally, what is common is to plant continuous strips separated one meter between rows and alternate strips every 4 meters. So the examples are in the bottom of the slide, and you can see to the bottom right, there is a plantation of grasses, Antitonia, diversifolia, that is a plant commonly used in this type of system, protein bank. When using this type of system, we can increase the amount of animals per paddock, because we are going to produce, in more cases, 1.5 or 2 times more forage in the paddock than if you only have grasses. What are the benefits of silvopastoral systems related to livestock welfare? So first, intake. When we use silvopastoral system for raising livestock, there will be more time, the animals will spend more time grazing. That will increase the forage intake, and the animals will use less water because they have shade. Related to production, the silvopastoral system increase in feed conservation efficiency and greater weight gain and milk production. And related to reproduction, silvopastoral systems will help to the animals to have earlier puberty, a more common estrus cycle regularity, increase the libido, better semen quality, high conception rate, less embryonic loss, and it will reduce the mortality rate, better body condition, and increase milk production of the mothers and higher birth weight. So there are many benefits related to silvopastoral systems, and all these benefits are being proved doing research, in different places around the world. Silvopastoral systems will help to reduce the heat stress in the animals. The Bos taurus and Bos indicus, those are the species of bovines have ranges of thermoneutrality where they can express their genetic potential. When animals leave this comfort zone, they enter in heat stress, which reduce their performance and can sometimes cause death. So silvopastoral systems will help to reduce the temperature of the paddocks between 2 to 9 degrees, and three species provide shade of 20 to 30% without greatly affecting the photosynthetic rate of the grasses. So it's really important to establish silvopastoral system, and it will help animals to withstand the increase in temperature caused by climate change. They will be more productive, they will produce more meat, they will produce more milk, and it will help in their reproduction. Silvopastoral systems and climate change. The integration of the different components in the silvopastoral systems are soil. The soil will provide nutrients and water to the plants. The grasses and trees will help to cycle nutrients and protect against erosion by maintaining moisture. Trees provide shade for the grasses and the livestock will provide nutrients to the system. So all these components are integrated in the silvopastoral system to have a more resilient production system. Climate change are changes caused in climate by human activity. Normally, when we have livestock operations, there is production of greenhouse gases emission, commonly CO2, methane, nitrous oxide. Those are the common gases that are produced during livestock operations. Livestock contributes a lot to methane emissions because the animals has enteric fermentation in the ruminant, digest the fiber, and expels methane. And also, livestock contributes to CO2 throughout deforestation because the common practice is to cut the trees, cut all the species that we have in a place, and then prepare the soil and just plant grasses. And there's a common practice that we have to change if we want to have more resilient uh, production systems for livestock. Silvopastoral and adaptation to the climate change. So the silvopastoral systems helps to improve biodiversity. So the species that produce wood, fruits, and grasses in one place give us some ecosystem services. And the ecosystem services are related to bring pollinators to the place, increase the rain, increase the infiltration of water, increase the organic matter in soil. A space for selection and genetic improvement of the most adapted animals. Trees are a CO2 sink, so they will sequester carbon. They provide shade, food for the livestock in times of scarcity, reduce the effect of drought, reduce the erosion, and increase the infiltration. They create microclimates that promotes precipitation cycles, and this is very important in continental places, and increase soil organic matter. Silvopastoral system will also give us the opportunity to have more adaptation to climate change. The inclusion of legumes and different shrubs or bushes in the diet of the animals modifies the ruminal fermentation and reduce the enteric methane. So when we provide to the livestock a different diet where they have grasses, legumes, and other species of plant, the microbes in the rumen will reduce the production of methane. prevent pasture degradation by reducing nitrous oxide emissions, and also will increase the carrying capacity of the paddocks, allowing more animals per unit area. It will improve the physical, chemical, and biological properties of the soil. The integration of different plant species will increase organic matter, as I said before, and also the shade that the trees provide will provide a better environment for the different biological activities in the environment. Which trees and shrubs are suitable for silvopasture? So the choice of trees and bushes depends on the prevailing environmental and edaphic factors in the area. So the different species that you will be using in the silvopasture system, it will depend of the area that you are located. The different climate condition, different type of soils, temperature, all that will affect the different species that you will be using. So it's important to make a soil analysis to determine which trees and forage are best suited for your soil. Also, the temperature, precipitation, season of the year, and the height above sea level, among other factors, will affect the silvopastoral system. So you have to take in account all these factors before you select the tree species or the forage species that you are going to implement in the silvopastoral system. Also, you have to be clear what type of animal species are the ones you are going to produce. If you are going to raise cows, goats, horses, so that's important also to take in account. So let's talk a little bit about the different species that are commonly used in the tropical and subtropical regions. The first one is saman. Saman is Albizia saman or Samanea saman. This is a tree with a wide coverage and the possibility of grass growing under its crown. It provides shade. As a legume, it produces pods that feed livestock and also help on nitrogen fixation. This type of tree is good to use it in a silvopastoral system with scatter trees because it's a big tree and you can have a crown extension of up to 30 meters. Another important tree that is used in silvopastoral system is the mahogany. We name it criolla. It's a Swietenia mahogany. It produces a high quality wood. There is another one named Caoba hondureña that is Swietenia macrophylla, and it's a type of mahogany. It's good for wood production and it provides shade, and it's suitable for silvopastoral system, for scattered silvopastoral systems, and tree alleys for forestry wood. Another important trees are the oak, Catalpa longissima, cedar, Cedrela odorata, y melina, Gemelina arborea. These ones are trees that are used for wood production. They provide shade to the animals. They are adapted for silvopastoral systems that to establish composite life fences, also to plant it as alleys or intensive forest grazing and for forest plantation. And you can see different pictures there of the different species that they are planted together with grasses to provide shade to the animals and also for grazing. So when the trees are already established, they will be a source of income when the farmer decides to cut it for wood, and it will be a really, really good income. Another important species used in silvopastoral systems are the Pinus caribea That one is used in lower areas, and the Pinus occidentalis that is used in high areas over 850 meters above sea level. These species are commonly used for wood production. They grow commonly in acid and poor soils, and these trees fit in silvopastoral systems for alley intensive grazing, for forestry lumber, and we can use it also as a windbreakers. Another common tree used in silvopastoral system is the acacia, Acacia mahium. It's a legume species used in reforestation plants due to its rapid growth. It grows really fast, and it's common to use it in reforestation plants. It grows very well in humid areas, and it can be used as a forage for animals and adapts to silvopastoral systems that are grown for lumber, also for alleys intensive grazing systems, windbreakers, and living fences. So it's one of these species that can be used almost for any type of silvopastoral systems. This one is also a legume, it's Calliandra calotirsus. It's a legume that the leaves of these legumes are not very digestible, but this plant tolerates a lot of drought. And when we grow it together with grasses, helps to improve the quality of the forage. And the protein content in this plant is between 15 to 20% or 15 grams per kilogram. It grows very well in humid areas. It's a good forage and adapt to silvopastoral systems that are related to protein banks. It's commonly used in protein banks in tropical and subtropical areas. And also it has a component that is named tannins, and it helps to control the intestinal worms in animals or parasites. Another legume that is very important is leucaena. This is Leucaena leucocephala. It's a legume used as a forage, and it can be classified as a weed. So we have to use it. We can use it, but we have to establish a good plan to grow it so it doesn't affect our production as a weed. It prefers neutral to alkaline soils, and it has 15 to 20% protein in its leaves. Tolerates drought and provides shade to the animals, and also help in fixing nitrogen, and is adapted to grow in strips for protein banks. All these legumes require some type of management. So when we grow it, we have to prune it so they will develop more stems and leaves, and the animals can use it as a forage. In that way, when you prune it, you will control the seed production also. And this one, the moringa or Moringa oleifera, there is a common plant used in silvopastoral system. It's a tree that has a high medicinal value. The leaves have high nutritional value, and the seeds of the tree can be used as a feed for livestock. It adapts to rainy areas and tolerates drought. It provides shade and is very palatable. It produces about 18% protein. It's adapted to silvopastoral systems related to live fences or protein bank. And it's very common to use it in silvopastoral systems. It's very digestible for the animals, and it's easy to establish. In some places that are very drought, we can use species like escambron or cambron. The scientific name is Prosopis uliflora. It's a legume that predominates in dry areas. It provides excellent shade in silvopastoral systems. Its branches and pods are a source of food for livestock. So we can cut some of the stems and leaves and the seeds, and the animals and the livestock will eat it. It's common to very dry areas, and it adapts to silvopastoral systems for dispersed planting or living fences. It's a big tree, so we commonly use it in dispersed in the paddock for shade or in the fence in the living fences. And the almácigo or Bursera cimaruba, this tree species is used for living fences. And it's very common to find it in the tropics, to use it in living fences because it grows really, really fast. And farmers tend to plant it every 2 meters in the limit of the paddocks. So eventually they can put the barbed wire or the electric fence to that tree. You can see the picture there to the right, where they put the barbed wire in the trees, and it will create a living fence. And the two most common plants used in silvopastoral system for protein are the mulberry, that is Morus alba. It has high nutritional value. The leaves has between 18 to 20% protein. Another important species is Titonia, that is Titonia diversifolia. It's a fast growing plant with good nutritional value, with leaves producing between 15 to 18% protein. These two species, mulberry and Titonia, are adapted to protein banks, but sometimes require some fertilization, and we have to manage the protein bank to prevent the cattle from overgrazing. So they are very palatable, animals like it, and normally when we do the protein banks, these ones are going to be paddocks that the animals are going to occupy this paddock maybe for a couple hours during the day to provide some protein, or we have to establish then protein banks in all the paddocks where they can graze this paddock for one day, and then next day you change it to a different paddock. Because if not, they're going to create a problem of overgrazing. And then the common steps to establish silvopastoral systems are these ones here. So first one, we have to obtain information of the soil fertility, topography, climate, the animal species that we are going to be raising, and the plant species and the final use we're going to give it to that species. So we have to get all that information before determine what type of plant species or animals we're going to be raising. Then we have to determine if new planting of pastures will be made. Because if we are going to establish grasses and trees together, the system will change a little bit. The third step is to make a map or plan of the systems to be established, including the planting distance and the irrigation system for the trees. So you can see to the right of the screen, these two pictures there. So you can make a sketch or plan of the silvopasture you want to establish, put the trees, the fence, the distance between trees, the type of soil, the irrigation system. So it will help you to organize how you are going to establish the system. Then we have to establish a nursery to propagate the selected species according to the use. And the use could be for living fence, for protein bank, fruit trees, or for wood production. Then we have to obtain the propagation material from seeds or cuttings, establish the trees and the bushes or shrubs in the nursery. Then the other step is to prepare the soil with 2 passes of plow and 2 passes of harrow before planting the grasses. So if we are going to plant grasses first, we have to plow the soil, prepare the soil, we plant the grasses, and then after 50 to 75 days after planting the grasses, we will establish the trees inside the paddock and they will grow together. But we cannot introduce the animal component to the system until the grass and the trees are already established. Once the grass are planted, the trees and shrubs can be planted. The field planted with grasses should not be grazed until 90 to 120 days after establishment. But before grazing, we have to protect the trees with some type of fence so the animals will not be able to eat the tree. And that protection will be there for at least 3 years, in some cases more. And then when the tree develops, but you will remove the protection. But it will take between 3 to 5 years to establish the trees in the paddocks, and you have to protect it from the animals. In the case you are using forage bushes or shrubs, such as mulberry and titonia, the establishment and pruning of the different trees will take from 6 months to a year before they can be used in the protein bank. So it will take time to establish a protein bank using titonia or moringa or different species. So it's important to recognize that if you are going to change your pastures or your system, it will take time, and also you have to do it one paddock at a time, because if not, you are going to lose all the paddocks for grazing. So you have to do one paddock at a time, and once you develop one paddock and you can put animals in that paddock, then you will work in your second paddock. If you are going to establish living fences, first you have to establish a permanent fence using another material, and then you will proceed to plant the spikes, cuttings, or stakes of the trees that will form later the living fence. Paddocks should be grazed under an intensive rotational system, so you will not have overgrazing. And when you are doing intensive rotational system, that is common. It's common to put the animals in a paddock just for 1 day and 1 night, and then next day you change the animals to a different paddock. So you will have to have at least 30 paddocks in your rotational system, so you can change your animals every day to a different paddock, and each paddock will have at least 29 days of rest, so the grass can develop, can regrow, and the animals will go to that paddock again in 29 days. The animal load and the load capacity of the paddock will determine the number of animals and the occupation time. So you can see some pictures there to the left, and these are diagrams of how you can establish a living fence. But first you have to establish a permanent fence, and eventually that permanent fence, you will change it to a living fence that will be permanent also. So silvopastoral systems provide several ecosystem services while increasing the productivity and performance of the agroenvironment. Silvopastoral systems are really important because in just in one unit area, we are able to produce meat, milk, fruit, woods, grasses, and it will help to improve all biotic and abiotic factors of the system. The silvopastoral system will provide other ecosystem services. So normally when we are working with silvopastoral system, we will have a place for cultural activities. It will be a place to water captation, water infiltration. It will provide some profit to the families growing the silvopastoral system, and it will provide food to the families.